The U.S. hits 4 million coronavirus cases, 1 million of those in just about 2 weeks. We're going to break down some of the numbers and tell you about an important hand sanitizer recall. Play ball. Baseball is back, but without the fans. And Dr. Fauci threw out the first pitch last night. So, how'd he do? Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Friday, July 24th. I am Jill Wagner here with a special guest this morning, Moshe Wanunu, who is joining us today while Carlo is out. Moshe is the former executive producer of CBS Evening News. He also helped to launch CBSN, which is the network's digital channel, and he is currently a digital media consultant. Welcome to the show, Moshe.
Jill, thanks for having me on. A big fan of the newsletter from the days you started it, and it's fun to collaborate for the first time since our days back at CBS.
Well, it's great to have you on. And I'm glad you're on today because we have so much news and a really quick story breaking overnight as the tension between the U.S. and China ramp up. China has now ordered a U.S. consulate in Chengdu, that's in southwestern China, to close. So this is retaliation for the U.S. ordering the shutdown of the Chinese consulate in Houston. Wondering what you make of this. Is this just for show, or do you think that the China-U.S. relationship has just hit a new low point?
It's been a tough couple of years. The way I kind of think of it is think about it as a diplomatic breakup, if you will. We've asked them to clean out their closet in Houston. They have now asked us to clean out our closet in Chengdu. So it could go either way at this point. Remember, embassies, consulates are literally territories that we gift that country in each respective country. Though we should note that we still have an embassy in Beijing and 5 other consulates in Hong Kong and one still in Wuhan. So we should keep monitoring the headlines because the way it's been working with China during the Trump administration is we constantly have ups and we have downs. So we're clearly in a down right now.
So I guess the question, and I'll throw a little Taylor Swift reference in, is this going to be never, ever, ever get back together? Or perhaps, we'll fix it and get back together after all.
I think it's one of those relationships where we have such a history and so much intertwined that I find it difficult to believe that we're not getting back together.
All right. And I mentioned Taylor Swift because we do have some Taylor Swift news, but that'll be at the end of the pod.
Deep tease.
Yes, a deep tease. Okay.
Yeah.
On this Friday, unfortunately, we have to kind of start how we often do with a new milestone when it comes to coronavirus. There are now more than 4 million known cases of COVID-19 in the United States. A quarter of those, that's 1 million cases. In just the past 15 days, more than 144,000 people in this country have now died of the virus. We are nearing the record when it comes to hospitalizations. Moshe, again, the pace at which these cases are growing is quite startling.
It's pretty incredible. We've been looking at the numbers and get this. From the first case in the U.S. till the 1 millionth case, it took us about 100 days. From the 1 millionth case to the second million, it took us less than half that. To the 3rd million, it took us 28 days. And now, as you said, only 15 days to go from 3 million to 4 million. So the pace is quickening according to the Johns Hopkins numbers. And by the way, those are just the Americans who successfully got tested. Remember those early days where lots of people could not get tested. And the other remarkable thing is now that we've hit 4 million, that now means that 1 out of every 100 Americans has tested positive for coronavirus. So think about that. Whenever you're on the street, you're looking at a big group of people, 1 out of 100 folks in this country have had it.
Incredible. And there's also the mental health toll, which we don't always talk about. A stat that I heard last night from Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Last year at this time, 1 in 15 Americans say that they suffered from depression. But now that number is 1 in 4. That's just incredible and not too surprising, I think. One of the reasons that I did want you to come on today, not only are we friends, of course, from our CBS days, but you have recently started to curate the news on your Instagram feed. So you now have thousands of followers. We joke, of course, that you're chairman and CEO of your own Instagram feed. But
it's an honor. Yeah.
But I'm sure that it does let you connect with an audience in a lot in a more personal and direct way than you ever have. And I'm wondering what you are hearing from people in terms of their biggest concerns right now.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that I ran a show that had 6 or 7 million viewers every night and got a handful of tweets to kind of get a gauge for what folks were thinking. And now it's a Instagram feed with less than 10,000 people, and it's a voracious amount of feedback. Issue one for folks, especially this past month or so, is my school going to be open in my state, in my local town? Why am I not hearing anything? And by the way, my school is open. Is it safe? Should I still send my kids? So, that I think is top of mind for a lot of folks right now.
And not to state the obvious, but there's just no really good answer on that, of course.
No, not at all. And folks are looking at their leadership for advice and sometimes not hearing a single thing. And so I think it's, it's a really challenging situation for a lot of people out there. I should say that yesterday, the biggest story was this FDA hand sanitizer recall. So the FDA came out yesterday morning with a list of 75 names, some sold at big box stores like Walmart. Dangerous hand sanitizers that are leading to health issues. Some of these hand sanitizers are made in Mexico and other countries. They contain a dangerous chemical, and this is what to look out for, methanol. Avoid that. What's safe is make sure your hand sanitizer contains ethanol without the M. But needless to say, you can go to the FDA website. It's a searchable database. Type in the hand sanitizers that you may have already purchased. And I'm told by the FDA that if you sanitize your hands, that decreases your rate of infection or the chance of infection by 16 to 20%.
That's it? I mean, I mean, I know that's great. I feel like you're mentioning that like it's a good number. I think I put hand sanitizer on and I think I'm just protected for like 24 hours, but I guess that's just not the case here.
I've been to some of these stores that have these huge pumps, and like so much hand sanitizer comes out that you're like, I could shower in this stuff, which I guess, depending on what we just learned from the FDA, you should definitely not do.
At this point, though, so much, of course, hinges on getting this virus under control, the medical developments in terms of vaccine and treatment, and also testing. And I just want to mention quickly this positive development on that front. A hospital in France is testing patients for coronavirus with a device that works kind of like a breathalyzer test. In just seconds, they're able to find out if that person has the virus. It is now entering a second trial phase. I know Israel's working on something pretty similar. Needless to say, this could be a game changer.
Totally. The idea that you could breathalyze folks and in a couple seconds see a positive or a negative could be pretty incredible as we try to reopen schools, get people back to work, and maybe even attend one of those sporting events or concerts. Remember those? And so, Bill Gates has said, and obviously a controversial figure when it comes to some parts of this country, that if you don't get results in 24 hours, it's a useless test. And we did speed things up in June. Now that the cases have gone up, people are now waiting days and weeks, in some cases in California. But what has been incredible, as you note that development in France, is that 6 months ago, coronavirus was not even a household name. And the way that science has been kind of put into action to try to develop ways to help society cope with it is pretty incredible to watch.
Absolutely. On to politics now. President Trump has canceled the portion of the Republican National Convention that was to be held in Jacksonville, Florida. He said the timing is just not right with the flare up of cases in that state. You'll remember the president had shifted the venue to Jacksonville from Charlotte after North Carolina's governor expressed concerns about hosting a full scale convention amid the pandemic. Moshe, I know you've covered a ton of conventions. This one going to look a lot different.
Definitely. I mean, remember that conventions back in the day was where we found out who the nominee was going to be. And in the past, like 30 or 40 years, they're just a huge promotional tool, like a 1 week long, every night commercial for your candidate. In covering previous campaigns, they estimated between a few percentage points up to a 10% jump in their polls post-convention. That's the use of these things. So obviously now that they've gone digital, that's going to be different. I was with the McCain campaign when they were actually post that convention in 2008 with the Palin speech leading Barack Obama after that convention. So that's the type of impact these things can have. This is going to be different. It's going to be, partially digital. Some people in person in Charlotte for the Republicans. They're going to begin the week of August 24th. So we'll see how that goes. Democrats go first, though. Biden and folks will be in Milwaukee, or some will be in Milwaukee. Some will be Zooming in the week of August 17th. By the way, the big moment you look for on August 17th at the DNC convention, who his VP nominee is going to be, and the speech that they give.
Dare I ask if you have any predictions?
All we know is he's going with a female VP. I bat very badly when it comes to making political prognostications about VP choices. Going back to those days when I covered McCain.
I was going to say, I didn't warn you for this one.
Yeah. Do you want to have me back on? Kamala Harris. We're going to go Kamala Harris this morning. That's who we're feeling. Yeah.
All right. Okay, looking very different this year as well is sports. Baseball officially back. Yankees beat the Nationals 4-1 last night. Dodgers beat the Giants 8-1. There were no fans in the stands for last night's game. Citi Field, where the Mets play, is going to have cardboard fans. Fox Sports, though, says that for this weekend's games, they're going to have virtual fans. So the stadiums will actually seem full. The digital fans can cheer and boo. They'll be dressed in team colors. I saw the preview, and I have to say that from far away, it looks pretty real. Back to last night, though, Dr. Fauci, who's a big Nationals fan, he threw out the first pitch. Love that guy, but I don't think he should quit his day job.
No, definitely not. We need him on the day job. And that toss, if you guys watched it, was a bit off the plate, a lot off the plate. Some say he really flattened that curveball.
I don't know. What's worse, that joke or my Taylor Swift attempt at a joke? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have folks vote. Please DM us on Instagram. But it's interesting. Trump won't even let Fauci have the last word on the diamond either. Trump's going to be throwing out the first pitch of the Yankees game next month. And that virtual fan thing, by the way, I don't mind those cardboard cutouts either. They kind of grew on me as I was watching the game last night. That's kind of cute. They did have some trouble in a European game last month, by the way, that somebody had a cardboard cutout of Osama bin Laden. So let's be careful, team folks out there. Keep it kosher in the stands. On the virtual front, by the way, the producers say that they can have the virtual fans do the wave and can even remove virtual crowd members as the game goes on to keep it real. So like if one team is blowing out the other, the Fox Sports producers are going to start removing fans as you would see in an actual ballpark.
It's incredible. I do wonder if some of this technology, you can almost imagine. I mean, I don't want to necessarily go there, but even, you wonder, I think the big question with all of this is what is going to stick around post-pandemic, what trends that we have and how industries are going to change. And you have to imagine, is there going to be a time when, even when fans are allowed back in a stadium, where there might be some virtual fans and are they going to pump noise in? I think
they have pumped noise in the past. That's been a thing, especially when there's not enough fans at home. But you can imagine the controversy also in the future when, teams are fan attendance sometimes has a direct correlation to TV numbers and attracting more fans, right? So you can see situations where people are like, I feel like they're filling in fake fans in the crowd to make it look like the team is doing better. Typically, when attendance goes down, that's often the rationale for teams to make major changes. So, who knows what goes on and what potential controversies await us? And by the way, we also live in the era of esports, so there's a lot of virtual sports things going on already. So, let's see what happens here. But I don't know. We live in an era of fake news, and now we're kind of in an era of fake sports fans. So,
that's so depressing. Okay. But NBA games resume Thursday in the Orlando bubble. NHL restarts Saturday. Both of those seasons frozen in March. I do want to switch gears. We have this triple tropical threat right now in the Pacific. Hurricane Douglas is expected to hit Hawaii this weekend. There's Tropical Depression 8, as it's called, in the Gulf. And then there is Tropical Storm Gonzalo in the Atlantic. That ocean, unusually warm right now. Gonzalo expected to become a hurricane Friday. It's the earliest date ever for a storm beginning with the letter G. Of course, these tropical storms and hurricanes are named in alphabetical order. I don't think there's ever been a tropical Hurricane Jill. I don't think Hurricane Moshe, but here we go.
Moshe, much more unlikely. Jill, we're only 3 letters away from J, but I don't believe you're on the list this year. Fun fact, they used to be named in the Atlantic only after women for about 25 years till 1979. And then they decided to go male, female, male, female. So one of the things...
Carlo, by the way, likes to joke that he deals with Hurricane Jill every morning, but whatever.
Yeah, no, it's a very calm morning. I think you're no stronger than a tropical storm this morning, Jill.
Okay, good.
A couple of things, by the way, that we should watch out. Obviously, the hope is that Gonzalo dissipates and doesn't impact anybody. But I've been covering back in my CBS News days a hurricane season the past few summers and falls. And something meteorologists are looking out for again this season is as these storms hit land, they tend to slow down and they just dump records amount of rain. We saw it in Harvey in Houston, Hurricane Florence in North Carolina last year, where sometimes the flooding does way more damage than the initial winds. And unfortunately, they blame that on climate change. And by the way, I wish I had some good news for you this morning on climate change, but a new study is out this week with scientists predicting that we will now warm even faster and higher than previously thought. So they predict these things on a scale. So previously, we thought the Earth was going to warm between 2 degrees Fahrenheit and 8 degrees Fahrenheit. They've now changed the scale. The lowest we will now warm is 4.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's given where we are with carbon dioxide within the next 50 years. By the way, if that doesn't seem like a lot, 4 degrees, we're already about 1.5 degrees warmer than we were pre kind of modern technology. Think about a fever. When your body is just 2 or 3 degrees warmer, it throws everything out of whack. You can't get out of bed. Think about Earth the same way. That's the way scientists explain it. Just a few degrees warmer, it's like Earth has a fever and throws the entire ecosystem and how our weather and temperatures work completely out of whack.
It's a really good way to, I've never thought of it that way. And I think that that's a great way to look at it. I tend to think also, we get these 100-year storms like every other year now. So what does that tell you?
They do need to rename those. But yeah, it's scary looking at those charts. I guess the one thing I hope is the same way that science has now been mobilized around dealing with the coronavirus is that whenever we get to the point where we're like, we need to take this climate change issue seriously, that ideally we can, and even quicker, kind of wield the strength of global science, all communicating together, and figure out some ways to reverse some of this, though it might be more challenging.
All right. And it is Friday, so I do want to end on a bit of a lighter note. Taylor Swift out with her 8th album. It is called Folklore. She said she wasn't planning to do another album, but all of her summer plans got canceled. So why not? She said she wrote and recorded this music in isolation, but she did get to collaborate with some of her musical heroes. I love Taylor Swift, but I got to tell you, I was feeling pretty good about myself. I made a banana bread in my free time. And then I found out Taylor Swift made an album in her spare time. Whatever.
Taylor Swift's been showing us up since her teen years. You're like, I accomplished a lot when I was 16 or 18. And Taylor Swift's like, I've just dropped an album that, was nominated for a Grammy. But, shake it off, Jill. Shake it off. Isn't that what she would say?
But by the way, it's getting rave reviews already. I looked this morning. Everyone says, one critic said it is near perfection.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that is quite an endorsement. I will put it on my playlist this weekend, and I'll let you know next week how it was. By the way, I guess now that Taylor's dropping an album, we haven't yet heard from Kanye on it. Not to bring him into this, he's been interrupting her life, or I guess this is her now 3rd decade. But He, in addition to the whole drama around him and the whole running for president thing, is set to release an album himself, Donda, his 10th album, which I anticipate means the rivalry continues this year.
What is that going on? How many decades? 3 decades?
Yeah, when did he interrupt her at the MTV Music Awards or whatever? I'm gonna let you finish.
All right. Well, Moshe, it was so great to have you on. We have to do it again. I think it was really good to just get, a different perspective. We had a nice week. Carlo is off. He is back Monday. And I wish we had some like Cheddar swag that we could give out. I would challenge anyone to spell your last name, Wanunu. It is not like it sounds. Moshe.
No, no. It's been a character building exercise having a last name with 6 vowels in it. Clue one. There are 6 vowels in the last name. But no, Jill, it's been a pleasure. Carlo, just keeping the seat warm for you. Look forward to having you back here and listening to you guys on Monday. In the meantime, I'll be tracking the news on my Instagram account, which is just much easier. My first name at Moshe, Mosheh.
All right. Well, great to have you on. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and have a great weekend. That's what you need to know for, what day is it? Yeah, Friday, July 24th.